Last week we talked about working models and work arrangements, and what we wanted to share with you, how we actually get from a first idea, from a first draft, to a YouTube video, and what we do in between. This is what we do today. Most important part, take some time and relax. Good ideas don't come from thinking. They come from actually silencing the mind, and then they just come into your mind. First things, one of us has an idea. Either I come up with a thought and say, let's make a video about it, or someone in the team stumbling upon a topic that is kind of related to what we do, and stuff that we do is usually around technology, communication, work, new work, however you call it. This is where we then start.
Yeah. So this time we had an idea by Antonia, who wrote us in Slack about the catchy German theme of Arbeitszeitmodelle und Lebensmodelle dahinter. So work time models and arrangements and the lifestyle behind it. Now the idea came from a Slack thread in our advisory channel about just that, because Lavinia wanted to talk about it in the newsletter.
Right.
Because it was a discussion before, and she asked, specifically she wanted to talk about the 4-day week, which I think is an experiment in Norway and Sweden and the Scandinavian countries. And I know for a fact that Yannick at first was here for 4 days too, I think. And I think we have a few crew members who work 4 days a week.
4 days, yeah, but there are different models. You can have 80% of 4 days a week.
Yeah, and that's what it's about. Just like how flexible is 4 days? Does 4 days mean 4 days like Monday to Thursday, or does it mean you only work 6 hours a day, or just how we live those flexible work time hours and how we think it could work? That's the idea behind it. So the Slack thread was, Antonia said 4 days a week is just too simple.
Yeah.
Because there are so many different lifestyle models and and they need different flexibilities, especially for students, for parents, for dog owners.
Okay, so maybe to like put it in perspective, we are quite known for the term new work regarding from the podcast. New work originally came from a term back in the 80s, and a part of this new work movement, or one of the ideas Tessa is currently working on to like do some research for a movie, so you see two things happening here in the background. But part of this idea is that they came up with it, that you work half the time and the other time you're off, 50-50.
So maybe that's the first point in the video.
And this could be, we should relate that also to this, to put it in perspective while you talk about it. Because what happens in the mainstream is you talk about a certain amount of days, and this is what Antonia criticizes, because people then say, yeah, it's like with home office. Is 2 days good or 3 days good? And that's not the question. The question is what you want to do with it.
So you want to start with the example of Friedhof Bergmann?
I would relate to it,
Yeah, okay. So what's the procedure for you? Is it you need a catching point? You need one point you can relate the topic to, and then?
So what I learned over the years is that the story is much more important than presenting the facts. The facts are super important, don't get me wrong, but the way you present a story and shape it helps people to remember facts. So I'm a big fan of good storytelling, put it in a good way, and there are methods that you can put behind it. I don't relate to them directly by thinking about them, but I love to read about it. There are YouTube videos about it. The 7 universal stories. There is this method from Aristotle, pathos, ethos, logos, the very 2,500-year-old way of shaping a story, which is true until today. Even this super famous Steve Jobs speech 2006 hyped YouTube video is based on that type of story.
And it's not even that you specifically want to, you think this is my pathos, this is my,
No,
it's just the way people tell stories.
Exactly, and it's more like you give something to me, and while I talk, I think I need that, or many people need that, not only I, but I need that, and I also then use drawing and writing and like making notes and put it into relation to something.
Yeah.
And my source is then YouTube quite often to look at something, to deep dive into a topic. I Google stuff. And the dangerous part is these days that we tend to research via headlines, and when we are not an expert, think pretty fast, yeah, we have an idea of the topic. But if we're a real expert, we know, no, we don't have. So we always kind of need to make sure not to like put out any wrong facts, but I always try to see what is my thinking about it, like how do I think about that?
Yeah.
That's important to me.
I mean, there's a few rules. I have a bit of journalism experience with the NDR, and if you want to do a factual video, there's this journalism rule of 3 independent sources.
Yeah.
And an independent source is not Tagesschau and Spiegel and DPD, because they all get the information from the German press thing. So you need to search for 3 separate sources, which we don't really do because we are not journalists. But
we try to at least like do a little bit of research. So I mean, what we do here right now, the first step is like brainstorm. What is the idea, in which direction shaping the story? Before we go to like, let's do a little bit of research behind it.
Yeah. So you hear 4 days week and you hear work time models. What's the first note you make?
Understanding that the choice of how we want to organize work will have an impact on our work environment for us personally. So this is the connection I make to the new work idea, back to the 80s, because coming up with the idea of working 50-50 is kind of related to something, what about a 4-day work week? But if people read this headline, a 4-day work week, they're like, how should we get the work done?
Yeah.
But we see that it works.
And this is something that Thomas kind of used. The classic 4-day work week means working less, but less money for that as well. And Neil says less vacation.
Yeah.
Thomas kind of uses, he talks about just working more hours Monday to Thursday.
The model, so we have in the company already different models. So this is also something we do. We always think of, do we do it ourselves? So apart from sources, we always try to see, do we have something that we do internally and we can share experiences? Because this is then something we can do as not journalists, that we share our own experience and perspective, which I think is important. And an opinion, of course, but like market it as our opinion. So regarding to this topic, we internally have people who work in different models. Some work 80%, which means less hours, less days. Some work on a 4-day week, meaning you have the same amount of hours, the same amount of vacation, but you're usually off on a Friday. Yeah. And I think people underestimate from that perspective how much discipline they need to do that kind of work. Because the people we have having the 4-day week or the 6-day week, they need to synchronize with their teams.
Yeah, and they need to have the respect for, if Niels works on a Saturday, but I don't, and he needs something from me, he's gonna have to respect that I don't work on Saturdays.
Yes, and here you need to find smart ways, which we did with having all the information searchable, being able to do the 2x call, which works on the weekend as well. So you need kind of smart ways, which we can share in the video as well. Yeah.
So we are gonna start with the example of 4 days week, which was a question on Slack. Then related to the new work by Christoph and then go to how we live those flexible models with the 6 days, 4 days, less hours, more hours, respect for the working times of other people, but with the option of the 2 times call and the transparency.
One thing I often do, very often do, I look into the history of an idea, like where does the 8-hour day come from? Where does the 5-hour day week come from? This is one of the most important things to me because I hate it when people say, this is how we do it. Don't question us. This is how we always have done it. I don't like that at all because there is always a first time when people did something and there was a reason behind it. And sometimes these things just don't make sense anymore. Because there's this very famous quote from Marco Börries: sense always makes sense, nonsense will always stay nonsense.
I've heard that one so many times.
I know, it's a very important quote.
Now here's an article by the BBC about the 4-day work week being an overwhelming success in Iceland. Now this one is about people working the same amount of hours on 4 days, so 8 hours a day would be the one in Germany. I don't know how that is in Iceland, but being paid the same amount.
And then you have to make sure that you sync it for the company. So what would that mean? For some people, the Friday is an important work day because a lot of stuff is happening there.
Yeah.
But let's say if you have a shop in a mall, the Saturday was a work day, and then you just had the afternoon or like one day, or maybe the early morning hours to get stuff done.
Yeah.
And the arguments for the 4-day work week, same amount of time and so on, is that you have more time to relax on the weekend, for creative stuff, for your own stuff, which makes kind of sense.
Yeah.
It's just hard to put it in sync. So there's a good documentary on Arte on work, very good one, which relates to that as well. Coming up with electricity, longer hours and so on. But this, for a YouTube video, it's not we don't want to make a small documentary out of that one.
Yeah, that's one thing to remember is our style. The style is very opinionated.
It's meant to spark a thought. Yeah. It's meant to spark a thought and to leave it open, like so you can relate to it and say, interesting thought. I take that and do something with it. And it's not opinionated in a way that we say this is how it's supposed to be. Yeah. This is my style of talking, of course, but always open for more stuff to come.
It's very, this is our view, take it or leave it, and kind of use it as inspiration for...
And come back with your own experience.
Okay, so where are we with the...
So we were still in researching and we're not yet in the full ready story. All the articles are a bit related to the left-wing newspapers.
I mean, wasn't it always a thing that working rights was more of a left-wing thing?
Sure.
So, I think by now you are at the point where you have a lot of thoughts, and if you would start talking right now, I think it would be a good video. So, I mean,
So what I don't do anymore, maybe as a creative process, I don't script everything. Yeah. I did that in the beginning. I had to do it because there was no routine in talking to the camera. I had to like redo it, and redo it. We use as a way of filmmaking also the style of being very natural and authentic. So if you skip a word or something, then it's fine. It's just okay. But what we need to do now is to find a setup where we do the video, how it's supposed to look like. Do we need animations and stuff like that?
So I think what we need... I don't think we could do a lot with animations here. I think this is more of a talking and maybe...
But maybe there's one animation that could work if we do it in a way that you have an explanation of what we talk about. We could say, this is the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like this. And then you have, I don't know, something that is for the amount of hours. And there is this model. Oh no, Sunday is off. There's this model where you cut off hours, but up until Sunday, Saturday, where you then extension the hours for 4 days. This could be the model.
Like a certain amount of hours. So let's say a block of some sort.
Yeah.
And then you just cut off this thing and put it on Monday. You cut this off and put it on Tuesday. And then maybe Wednesday you can't work as much because the kids are home by 12 o'clock. And then you know? Okay, so let's structure it. We talked a lot. Let's put it to an end.
Yeah.
So we have the beginning already. We
Yeah,
got
we
the
talked-
idea from Antonio.
Yes, we say that it comes from a thread that we talked in Slack because we talked about working models, which is something that is related to new work.
Yeah.
We relate it back. Then we explain with the animation what we talk about.
Yeah.
We show it.
So 4 days a week, what does it mean? What different models do you have,
Yeah.
and how do we implement it?
Then we share experiences from other countries, sources that we had, these different sources where we see like these are the advantages, maybe disadvantages. Then we think of how do we would make it work if we would
Yeah.
make it work.
Yeah.
And share the challenges that we see in these kind of models, which is usually a reason why people shy away from it. And then we would end with what are your thoughts, of course, but also maybe.
I mean, kind of that there isn't one solution. There isn't that solution, at least in our opinion, there is not just the solution of 4 days, 32 hours is the way to go. That's because that's what a lot of articles seem to say. But that's not the solution for us, and that probably isn't the solution for everyone in the world.
I have an idea what we end with,
Okay.
but you will have to watch the video. No, you watched the video already.
You know what we ended
Yeah.
with. Yeah.
Good.
Cool. Let's go. That's our storytelling process.
Yeah, that's the storytelling process, but now we show you the where do we find something, where we do it process. Where do we film?
I think we're gonna have to move Kati. Because I like the work hack as a work thing. Maybe you sit in there,
Yeah.
and that's it. Subscribe, like, comment, share, you know how it goes.
Yeah.